Hello there, internet world. First things first, I'm noticing that I should probably get some kind of anti-glare things for my glasses because I am seeing the glare that you are seeing. So, yeah, maybe if you zoom in, you can see what I'm looking at, which is my computer. But anyway, hopefully that will be an improvement for later. The reason I came on here, I just wanted to talk about the Blair Witch Project and just my experience seeing it for the first time, because I think in the grand scheme of things, it was a unique experience. And I'll tell you why. Basically because, let's see, in the summer of 1999, I was working, I guess what was my final year at a record store chain in New England called Newbury Comics. I had worked at their location. I guess maybe they still have two, I'm not sure. But at the time, there was only one location in Rhode Island. I was there for, I think, three and a half years, something like that. And then I ended up moving to Boston, and I worked for some time in the warehouse, and then I worked at their Newbury Street store, which is the very first store in the chain. At the time, I think there were about 25 stores throughout New England. So anyway, I was working one day, and I noticed that there were flyers that had been placed in the store. They weren't really flyers per se. They were more like kind of those, postcard size kind of flyer. And it was for a free screening of a movie called, well, at least we thought it was a movie. It was something called The Blair Witch Project, and it was going to be playing at the Kendall Square Cinema. I wish I could remember exact what date it was, but it was definitely in the summer. It was probably in August, because I think the movie, maybe it might have been June or July. I'm not sure. Because the movie ended up coming out in October, if I recall correctly. So it was a free screening at the Kendall Square Theater, which is a part of the Landmark Cinema chain. Still is, which is kind of amazing because that's like 25 years ago now at this point. But yeah, the flyer was very nondescript. It was just, the poster with the title and the tagline that you see there. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what it said, but it didn't have like credits. It didn't have anything. It was just kind of... It gave you the impression you're going to see a documentary, but what kind of a documentary was it? Because this is a time, too, you got to remember when, obviously the internet was around, but people didn't know about movies until they were, unless you're reading like trade magazines or you were really into cinema, and you can somehow find ways of knowing what's coming out and all that. But nowadays you can... second a movie is announced, it's known throughout the world. So it was definitely a different time. So when you saw this flyer, it was really intriguing and a little. I mean, it was definitely exciting because you just didn't know what it was. We just had never heard of it, no idea what it was, and it was just something to do. So I think looking back on it, I think it was probably likely maybe a festival print, because I think, if I recall correctly, it debuted at Sundance, like a midnight show, and then word started to spread a bit, and then you'd have these screenings, and I don't know how many they did. That's something I'd love to research to see how many of these screenings they actually did. It could be that. We could have been one of the few. I don't really know. I would assume it was probably in major markets like Chicago, Boston, New York, DC, that kind of thing. But I'm not exactly sure. But it definitely felt, when I went with my good friend Maria at the time, it felt like a unique experience. Like maybe we were the only ones, because it was really hard to tell what it was we were going into. And honestly, by the time we came out of it, it kind of felt the same way. So I remember we went into the theater. I can kind of remember exactly which theater it was, but I don't think that matters anymore. Like, because I know they've done some renovations, so maybe it's like completely different. But I remember going in, and we were in the last row. So there's a middle section, there's 3 sections, 2 on the side and 1 main section in the middle. We were in the last row and just a couple seats in from the left. I remember that specifically just because of like where we stood up. It was just such a moment that is burned into my memory because of the film itself. So all the little details are still there in my head. So there were no previews or anything because this was an advanced screening of something. So there's no previews. There was none of the, go out to the lobby and get your popcorn and all that stuff. So the film, it just started, and we sat through, the whole thing. And I remember looking at my friend a lot, trying to get her reaction, and vice versa, because it was really hard to tell what it was we were watching, because I know it doesn't fit the definition of what a snuff film is, but it had that feel to it, because you didn't know if these characters, if they were actors or if they were real, because they seemed real. And if they were missing, how the hell are we watching what this was? And once the movie was over, the screen, there's still kind of the glow from the projector. It was still up in the screen. It's probably like 30 seconds or something. And then the screen went dark and the house lights came up, and there's no credits. If you watch the movie now, obviously there's some credits, and it's just a lot of like ambient sound that sounds like, I guess it was, sounds of the woods or maybe inside the house there at the end. But absolutely no credits, no music, no ambient sound. It went dark, house lights came up, and it was strange because I remember we were, we kind of sat, everybody was sitting there for a while, just like, what the heck did we just see? Like, what was this? And why are we here? Why did they allow this to be shown? Because again, no one had really heard of this movie at this point. And I think even when we left, we were like, is this going to come out at some point? Like, are we just guinea pigs here? What's going on? It was very, very strange. So we all just kind of sat there in the theater for a little bit, and then people started to slowly get up. But I just remember, as we got up, everyone was just looking around at each other to see the reactions in their faces, to see if they were feeling the same feelings that we were having. And not just, just the fact that we were seeing something like this, but it was also scary. It was, to us at least, it was very scary, especially going in knowing absolutely nothing. All we knew was that face. You know what? That face may have not even been on the poster. It may have just said the Blair Witch Project, and it had the tagline, and that was it. So the fact that it was scary as well, and for some reason there was kind of this feeling that maybe we just saw, obviously it wasn't illegal because you're at like a top indie movie chain, but it still had that feeling to it, so that kind of made it exciting. And I remember it was a sold out show. Everyone was just in stunned silence, looking around at each other. And then when I got home, I called my good friend Joe. He's a big film buff. Still good friends with him to this day. And I think we probably talked on the phone, or maybe I talked at him for like a good hour or two or something. I was just over the moon and in awe and flabbergasted and confused. I just didn't know what the hell it was that we had just sat through. And just what a strange scene it was, and to be able to experience that with an entire theater full of people who are all wondering the exact same thing. It was quite an experience. So it's kind of hard to convey what a big deal it was, just because I can't stress enough, like, how we had no idea what this film was, because it came out in October. Yeah, it was probably June or July, maybe August, but I feel it was like July that we had seen it. And it was just because I this random little postcard flyer, on record stores, bands put their flyers and all that, and this was just another small pile of these passes that didn't even guarantee you entry. So we must have got there early to get a good spot. I mean, we were in the last row once we got in there, so we were pretty lucky to see it. But to know absolutely nothing about it just made it an incredible and unique experience. And I'm sure it helped, build the buzz and the anticipation, because there is no way that the other people that were in that theater weren't going home and telling their friends and family and their coworkers about this experience they had. And I wouldn't even call it even a movie-going experience at that moment. It was just some kind of visual experiment, perhaps, that we had sat through. So yeah, when the movie finally came out, we ended up going to see it again. Pretty sure it was on opening night. It was at least opening weekend for sure. We went with some other people, and yeah, at that point, word had spread, and then they had started marketing it and all that kind of thing. So by the time it came out, there was an excitement, and that's why some people were disappointed in it. Some people loved it. Some people thought it was boring and didn't find what was scary. Totally understandable. Everyone's different in that regard. So it made us feel even luckier to have seen it in that kind of situation, because that's what added to the fear of it, because we really didn't know what we had been sitting through. But yeah, by the time it came out, everyone had heard about it. They ended up being on, the stars of it ended up being on, I think it was Time or Newsweek magazine. I know I have that somewhere around here still. I might even have the flyer around, and if I do, I will somehow add it to this video at some point. I did look for it, but now that I'm saying it, I just thought of another spot. I might still have that. So hopefully I do, and I can post it somewhere, and hopefully on this video. As everyone knows, the movie was a box office bonanza. I think it made, between $200 and $300 million worldwide, I think, on a budget of like $50,000 or something like that. So it's probably still the most successful financially independent film ever made. It may have been topped by now, because you can make movies even cheaper and then make even more money off of them. So that's probably not the case. But yeah, I feel incredibly grateful, as does my friend who went with me. It was a creepy experience all around, and it at some points didn't feel right that we were sitting there, because if those, the actors that were in it, if they were real people and they were missing, that was one of the thoughts, the main thoughts that I came out of it with, was how on earth were we allowed to see this, and is it supposed to be entertainment? Like, what are we sitting through? So yeah, I basically I've mentioned many times, in various like chats and stuff on YouTube, when Blair Witch comes up, I always say, I need to tell you about my experience of seeing Blair Witch for the first time. So now that I'm doing at least a few more videos, more than usual, I figured this is a perfect way to do it. So yeah, I hope you found that interesting. And if anybody else out there was either at that screening at the Kendall Square in the summer of 1999, or if anyone else was at a preview screening or a festival screening or something like that, definitely add your experience, your story into the comments. I would absolutely love to hear about them, especially if you were there at Kendall, because that would be really incredible. So anyway, and if you've never seen the Blair Witch Project, you got to see it. It's a classic at this point, especially because it's 25 years old. So anyway, thanks for watching this this video and listening to this story. Hope you enjoyed it, and maybe we'll see you another time. Peace.